Eddie, as news director of our esteemed affiliate KRLD TV in Dallas, you've been right in the vortex of this thing since the moment of the assassination. What about the people of Dallas themselves? Do they agree with the Warren Commission report?
Walter, I think that on a cross-section basis, the percentage that had some doubt about it would be about what it would be across the country. Certainly there are people who have some doubts about it, but most of the doubters, I think, are those who come to Dallas and who come into our newsroom, as a matter of fact. They bring a lot of questions, but so far none of them have brought any answers.
That's the problem we all have, isn't it? And let me ask each of you in turn this question. Are you contented with the basic finding of the Warren Commission?
I'm contented with the basic finding of the Warren Commission that the evidence is overwhelming that Oswald fired at the president and that Oswald probably killed President Kennedy alone. I am not content with the findings on Oswald's possible connections with government agencies, particularly with the CIA. I'm not totally convinced that at some earlier time, unconnected with the assassination, that Oswald may have had more connections than we've been told about or that have been shown. I'm not totally convinced about the single bullet theory, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary to the final conclusion of the Warren Commission report. I would have liked more questioning, a more thorough going into Marina Oswald's background, but as to the basic conclusion, I agree.
Eddie?
I agree with it, Walter. It's too bad, of course, that Oswald didn't have his day in court, but I felt the night of November 22nd that he was the one who had shot the president, and nothing has come to light since then to change my opinion a bit.
It is difficult to be totally content. Yet experience teaches all of us that any complex human event that is examined scrupulously and in detail will reveal improbabilities, inconsistencies, awkward gaps in our knowledge. Only in fiction do we find all the loose ends neatly tied. That is one of the ways we identify something as fiction. Real life is not all that tidy. In 1943, Lieutenant John F. Kennedy came under enemy fire behind Japanese lines in the Pacific. His PT boat was destroyed. His back, already weak, was re-injured. Yet he swam 3 miles, towing a wounded shipmate, found shelter on an island, escaped Japanese search, encountered natives who carried messages back to American forces, crossed undetected through enemy waters as enemy planes hovered overhead, and survived to become president. The account of his survival is full of improbabilities, coincidences, unknowns. So is the account of his death. So would be the account of your life, or mine, or the life of any one of us. Concerning the events of November 22nd, 1963 in Dealey Plaza, the report of the Warren Commission is probably as close as we can ever come now to the truth. And yet if the Warren Commission had acted otherwise 3 years ago, if other government agencies had done differently then, would we today be even closer to the truth? Tomorrow we will consider not the assassination, but the work of the commission that was appointed to study it. For the first time, a member of that commission, John J. McCloy, will publicly discuss its work and its findings. Members of the commission staff and one of the commission's most persuasive critics, Edward J. Epstein, and we will ask, although we may not be able to answer, 2 last questions. Should America believe the Warren report? Could America believe the Warren report? This is Walter Cronkite with Dan Rather and Eddie Barker. Good night.
This has been a series, a CBS News inquiry, The Warren Report. The 4th part will appear tomorrow night at the same time. This broadcast has been produced under the supervision and control of CBS News.
This is CBS.
Good evening. For the past 3 nights, we have been examining the circumstances of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. On Sunday, we returned to Dealey Plaza to recreate that fatal motorcade ride beneath the windows of the Texas School Book Depository. Believing that rifle tests conducted by the Warren Commission were less than adequate, we conducted new tests, more closely simulating the conditions of the actual murder. We found hitherto undiscovered evidence in film of the murder itself, that the killer had more time than the minimal 5.6 seconds indicated in the Warren report to get the shots off. And we concluded that beyond reasonable doubt, Oswald was indeed at least one of the killers. But was there more than one? On Monday night, we interviewed eyewitnesses who said all the shots came from the school book depository, and others equally insistent that there were shots from the grassy knoll overlooking the motorcade itself. We tested, more exhaustively than did the Warren Commission, the extremely controversial single bullet theory, found that one bullet could indeed have wounded both the president and Governor Connally. We heard autopsy surgeon James Humes break 3.5 years of silence to report that he has re-examined the x-rays and photographs of the president's body and still has no doubt that all the shots struck from behind. We concluded that, in the absence of solid evidence that there were other assassins, and with the indications that one killer could account for all the shots, there was no second gunman. But even as the only gunman, was Oswald, as the Warren report suggests, a lone madman, or was he the triggerman for a conspiracy to kill the president? On Tuesday, we considered such frequently mentioned indications of conspiracy as the murder of Officer J.D. Tippit, found that he was legitimately ordered from his normal patrol area as part of a redeployment of police forces to cope with the assassination. Found, too, that a partial description of the assassin broadcast on police radio could account for Tippit stopping Oswald. We found that nightclub owner Jack Ruby, the man who killed Oswald, was a strange, mercurial creature given to hitting first and asking questions afterward. And none of his closest associates would credit Ruby with the ability to keep a secret very long. We presented the conspiracy theories of New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison, theories which Garrison says he will present in a court of law, but which today remain a series of largely unsupported statements. And we concluded that, for now at least, no conspiracy theory of the assassination has been proved. Tonight, we turn from the assassination to the Warren Commission itself. Having found that the Commission's conclusions, in the main, still stand up almost 3 years after they were published, we now ask our fourth and last fundamental question. Why doesn't America believe the Warren report?
This is a CBS News inquiry. The Warren Report. Here is Walter Cronkite.
Tonight, as in our preceding reports, my colleague Dan Rather and I are going to break this fundamental question into subsidiary questions. For the first part of the broadcast, we will ask, should America believe the Warren report? We will explore just how well and honestly the Warren Commission operated, to what extent it deserves belief. The second question will be, could America believe the Warren report? And we'll try to determine whether there are elements in the way people, and particularly Americans, think about great events which would prevent their accepting the Warren report, however trustworthy it might be. But this final broadcast will be different. The questions we will ask tonight, we can only ask. Tonight's answers will be not ours, but yours.
As we take up whether or not America should believe the Warren report, we'll hear first from the man who, perhaps more than any other, is responsible for the question being asked. Mark Lane, lawyer and former New York State Assemblyman, was the gadfly of the Warren Commission. He demanded the right to appear before it as a defense counsel for the dead Lee Harvey Oswald. Refused, he began his own investigation of the president's death. A study that produced first the best-selling attack on the Warren Commission, Rush to Judgment, and now a movie of the same name. Mark Lane has lectured all over the world on his own theories of the assassination.